Hello and welcome to City Beat. We are your central source of news and information for the city of Rocky Mount, and I'm your host, Tamika Keenan Norman. During today's show, you'll have an opportunity to learn more about new team players within the city of Rocky Mount. We'll have on our new assistant city managers, Chris Beschler and Natasha Hampton Clayton, and we'll also have a discussion with our newest city council member representing Ward 3, Mr. Richard Joyner. So please stay tuned. More of City Beat is coming up next. Hello and welcome to City Beat. I'm your host, Tamika Keenan Norman, and today's show is giving you an opportunity to learn more about key staff members here at the City of Rocky Mount. And joining us are our brand new assistant city managers, Chris Beschler and Natasha Hampton Clayton. So thank you both for joining us on City Beat today.
Thank you for having me.
I know you started in May, so you haven't been here long at all. Yeah. And I wanted you to get acclimated a little bit first before you join me on the show today. But first, how does it feel, Chris, to be here in Rocky Mount serving as an assistant city manager?
Actually, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the community. People are great. My wife and I go out in the community and people stop and talk to us. It's just a wonderful community to be in.
Yeah, we've got some friendly people here.
We do.
And what about you, Natasha? How does it feel for you?
It definitely feels surreal, you know, being born and raised in Florida and moving to Rocky Mount after having been there all of my life has definitely been a transition, but a great transition. What an amazing group of residents that we have here in Rocky Mount. Some awesome things are happening here, so it's really a pleasure to be here.
And you're, where do you call home?
Miami, Florida.
Miami, but you're coming here from Miramar.
I'm coming here from Miramar, Florida, which is in Broward County. So, yeah.
Yeah, so why Rocky Mount, Natasha? What attracted Rocky Mount to you? And had you heard anything about Rocky Mount before the position?
I did not hear anything about Rocky Mount prior to the position, but what drew me here was this magnificent presence that Rocky Mount has. It's so rich in history, and the residents here are amazing. When I moved here, slightly moved here, a neighbor that I didn't know and they didn't know me, but they just pitched in and really helped me to settle in and get grounded. And so I'm so appreciative of that. And that was like my welcome to Rocky Mount. But I knew that in my spirit that this would be a place that I could really call home, even after not, you know, knowing about it before. But it's such an awesome experience thus far. So
yeah, because when you do come to a new place, you have to feel it in your spirit. You have to feel comfortable. Right. Yeah. What about you, Chris? What made you come to Rocky Mount?
I had heard about Rocky Mount, and we had done a lot of research, we being my wife and I. And what we did is we actually came down and visited the community before I applied for the job. And again, found the residents very welcoming and warm. And I think the thing that really attracted me to this is great opportunity to help with make the community a better place. And having worked in a previous jurisdiction, there were a lot of issues facing Rocky Mount that I had experience with. So I said, you know something, one of my personal goals is I want to be able to help people. I want to make a difference in somebody's life or make a difference in the community. And I said, I think the skills that I have from my previous job would be a great transition for Rocky Mount. So that's one of the things that really attracted me here.
Now, where do you consider home, Chris?
I lived in New England. Although I was not born there, I lived in New England for 42 years. So I consider New England home. And my family, my mother, my father, and my brothers and sisters still live in New England. So.
Okay. So where did you all attend school? I forgot to ask that question, Natasha.
Well, I received my undergraduate degree from Florida Memorial University, which is the South Florida sole historically black college and university. And I received my master's degree from Nova Southeastern University.
Okay, and what about you, Chris?
I received both of my degrees from the University of Connecticut. My undergraduate degree is in engineering, mechanical engineering, and then I received my master's degree at the University of Connecticut as well.
Okay, mechanical engineering, all right. So you talked about experience earlier, Chris, and I'm going to transition to you, Natasha. I know you have over 20 years of experience. You don't look like it, but in executive public administration and operations. Tell me about some of those experiences that have prepared you for this position.
Well, first and foremost, receiving my undergraduate degree from Florida Memorial University in political science and public administration prepared me for work in public administration. And so my practical experience is I started my career in public works and utilities, water, wastewater treatment, and underground infrastructure. And from there, I have touched every single aspect of municipal government, from some engineering, construction and facilities management, human resources. I was human resources director for about 5 years. From union negotiations to police and fire, it's been an array of different experiences that's prepared me for this position, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have touched so many different things in municipal government.
You forgot the best one, marketing and communications.
Yes, I was. That's right. I have also served as chief marketing officer and did production and everything. So it's just been an amazing opportunity, not one that's that many can say that they have, to have been able to touch every single aspect of municipal government. And starting in operations, I think is the thing that catapulted me to the position where I am now, because it's an understanding that just being in administration, it doesn't give you. It gives you a better understanding of what's happening out in the field, the things that you do on a day-to-day. It gives you a better understanding of that, so you can transition that into the administration and really help staff in preparation, such as budgets and things like that, to get the things that they need to make sure that the cities look good.
That's true. That's true. And Chris, over 30 years, right, of experience?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You folks are looking good.
I was going to say, yeah, don't tell people that I've been working for 30 years. My age will show. I started actually in the private sector when I graduated from college. I worked for Connecticut's largest natural gas utility. And while I worked in literally every department in that company, with the exception of marketing and communications, which I'm sorry to say,
oh, well.
but
We still like you.
That was one that I missed. Then I moved to Virginia and continued on in the utility industry, but also got very heavily involved in construction, and then ultimately into administration, public administration, which is where I spent most of the time there.
Yeah, so you all have been around for quite a while. There's this term that Oprah used, I say Oprah uses, I still watch some reruns of her shows, but that aha moment, she always asks people about that moment of self-discovery. So, and some people don't have an aha moment, but what was that aha moment for you, Natasha? Did you have it? What was it like that made you say, yes, I want to be involved in public service, public administration?
Yeah, the aha moment for me actually came out of a personal experience. I was a teen mom. And that experience, I went the entire 9 months of my pregnancy without telling anyone that I was pregnant. I had my son on a Saturday and called and told my parents the following Wednesday that I had a child. And so that experience, and that was all out of fear. And so I didn't feel that I had alternatives and recourses, and even after that, transitioning into motherhood was extremely challenging with regard to affordable housing, assistance. Those things were extremely challenging. So that was my aha moment, to say that when God blessed me with the opportunity to do for someone else, that I would. And coming into public service it gives me the opportunity to affect policy that would result in helping those that need it. And for moms that, women, when we make choices, sometimes our choices aren't the best in that moment, but that doesn't mean life ends. And so when you have services and public services and you can affect those kinds of things to ensure they have a mainstay, that's what it's about. And that was my aha moment.
Okay. What about you, Chris?
I had an aha moment. It actually was in public service. When I was in my former job, we had a historic area of the city that was called the Entertainment District, and the elevation of that was 14 feet above sea level. And I bring that up only to point out that when you got heavy rains or the river would come up, it would flood very frequently. And what was happening was there was a lot of flooding and businesses were moving out of this area. So I had worked with the mayor and said that I think I have a plan that can help at least reduce or alleviate this flooding. And my aha moment was, again, my goal is to, I want to make a difference in somebody's life. I want to make a difference in the community. And that's just, I want to give back, as Natasha has said. And the aha moment for me was once we had done our work and we did fix the problem, a TV station had interviewed a business owner, and the business owner had said, when I look up in the sky and I see rain clouds, I don't worry about whether or not my business is going to be here because government has fixed this. And that was my aha moment that, you know, when you're working in government, you actually can make a difference, and you can make a difference in somebody's life, in their business life, their personal life. And I said, and again, in deciding to come to Rocky Mount, looking at the issues, I said, you know something, that's a place where I think that I can go and make a difference, and that's what I hope to do.
All right. And I love to ask about aha moments because you get to know so much about people, what they've been through, because a lot of times you see people in great positions, but you don't know how they got there and the challenges that they went through too. But you talked about your challenge, you talked about resources, and now it's interesting because one of the departments that you're overseeing is community business and community development. Tell me about some of the other departments that you all are overseeing. We'll start with you, Natasha, and kind of some of the experiences that will help you lead those departments.
Definitely. So I had the pleasure of overseeing the departments of human resources, human relations, community and business development, parks and recreations, and the oversight of the event center, the downtown Rocky Mount Event Center.
Oh, that's going to be exciting.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah.
So having, as I talked about previously, the different operational experiences, working with amphitheaters, outdoor amphitheaters, being director of human resources in my prior work experience, those are the things that have prepared me to propel help to propel the city forward by overseeing those departments.
Okay, and what about you, Chris, the departments you're overseeing?
The departments that I oversee are development services, engineering, public works, and water resources. And those are on the ground, boots on the ground, everyday services where if you don't meet our residents' expectations, you're certainly going to hear about it. But those are departments that really, in my mind, really make a difference, just with people's quality of life and things that normally people take for granted, like turning their water on and being able to take a shower or have a glass of water. Doing the best job that you can do with the highest quality of water really helps the quality of life, and I think I'm well seated for those departments.
Exactly, with your previous experience.
Arguably, those are the better departments. I'm gonna chime in on that one because I happen to think the departments that I oversee are the drumbeat of the organization, the drum line.
Well, and I will add to this, the people in those departments are absolutely fascinating. They are great employees, they're great public servants, and again, that makes this job even that much more rewarding, working with really competent and very good people.
And speaking of those departments, you're having to get involved to really learn a little bit more about them and how they operate within the city of Rocky Mount. But what are some initiatives that maybe those departments have led you to getting involved in that have allowed you to learn more about the city? And tell me about some that maybe have been interesting. And we'll start with you, Chris.
All right. again, some of these I want to come right out and say I cannot take any credit whatsoever because they had started long before I got here. But Natasha had brought up the event center, and just working with the engineering department on a parking plan. Obviously is going to ensure the success of the event center. So that's very exciting and rewarding. It's difficult, but obviously it's a challenge that I am certainly up to. Within water resources, we are going through what's called a cost of service study, and we have just started that. And what a cost of service study basically just makes sure that there's equity among the water rates that we charge. And so we have just embarked on that, and that's very important. Obviously, people don't want to pay more than their fair share for water, and they shouldn't pay more than that. And so, what the study will do will determine what is equitable and fair for all our different classes of customers. So that's very exciting, and that's something that's very standard in the utility industry. All the utilities do that.
Do that study, okay.
Yeah.
And what about you, Natasha?
Well, there's so many wonderful things that are happening in the city that's acclimating me to Rocky Mount. For example, in the Department of Human Resources, there's a pay and class study that is currently underway. And pay and class studies are really important to ensure that this organization's greatest asset, its employees, are compensated equitably. And so the pay and class study will ensure that we are at industry standard, making sure that we attract and retain talent, which is really important to an organization's mainstay, stability, and growth. So really excited about that, and that's certainly been an acclamation. The event center, of course, jumping into that, which is well underway. And I agree with Chris, these things were happening before I came in, but being able to jump in and see this amazing facility come from discussion to conception, you know, and to now visualize it and see it in full throttle here in Rocky Mount is just amazing. It's going to be a great venue for our children. We may very well have the next NBA champion, our next world-class athlete here, right here in Rocky Mount.
That's so true. Yeah. That's so true. And grand opening is coming up soon. I won't divulge the information just yet, but we're excited about that grand opening celebration coming up soon. The last thing I want to ask of both of you, and we'll start with you, Chris, is what positive words of advice or encouragement do you have for folks who are interested in getting in a career in public service, public administration? What would you say to those students? Yeah.
Here's what I would say. I would definitely go for it, if in a word, and I'll explain that. I've had the blessing to be able to have worked in the private sector, in the public sector in two realms. One is local government, and also I work for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And when I take a look at where can you make the most difference in people's lives, in my opinion, it's local government. Local government touches the residents of the community every day, where not so much, in my experience, with the Commonwealth or at state government, and certainly not, the federal government certainly does not come out and empty people's refuse cans, but local government does, and local government helps people. They improve infrastructure, they provide all of the necessary day-to-day services that, and sometimes we take for granted. And so what I would say is be engaged, and local government is really the place, in my opinion, where you really can make a difference in people's lives and in the lives of the community. That's again, when I was contemplating, where do I want to go from here, local government just popped right out as being that place.
That's so true. And before I got into government, you never really thought about, okay, the water coming out of the shower. But if it stops, do you think about it then? You just don't think about those things because that's what you expect. Yeah, but Natasha, what about you? What words of encouragement or advice would you offer?
Definitely that local government, as Chris mentioned, it touches lives every day. It is the heartbeat of the community. It's your local government that affords you services like waste collection, water, sewer. It is local government. But moreover, if you're experiencing challenges in your life, or you're seeing it, you're witnessing it, as I've had my personal struggles, I knew that public service was where I needed to be, because I knew that there needed to be changes in terms of the services that are offered to a community. Not everyone is served. You have your underserved, and your underserved needs a voice, and we're voices for the underserved, and that's my encouragement to anyone who's thinking about public service, is that you are a voice, and your voice should be heard, as well as the voices of those who are underserved. And so that is my encouragement, is to be a voice for someone who can't stand for themselves. You know, let's be our brother's keeper. And that's what public service is, our brothers and sisters' keeper.
All right. This is really good. I've enjoyed talking to you all. Any additional comments that you want to make before we close today?
No, just the only thing that I would say, again, it's been a short time, as you pointed out, started in May, but it's just been so far a wonderful journey, and there are so many good things on the horizon for Rocky Mount, and I am really excited. I mean, some of this stuff keeps me up at night in a positive way, thinking about just where this community can go. And for me, my closing statement would be if there's one thing that I want to do, is I want to make a difference in somebody's life in Rocky Mount, whether it's one person or 100 people, doesn't matter to me. And I certainly want to leave Rocky Mount a better community than when I came in. And I think we are really on that right track. I'm really excited.
All right. Anything that you want to add, Natasha?
Absolutely. Let's rock Rocky Mount.
All right.
Be ready.
Well, thank you to both of you. And thanks, like Natasha said, for being a voice for so many in this community. Thank you for tuning in as well. We're not done yet. We'll be right back in just a moment, and we'll get a chance to learn a little bit more with our newest council member for the Rocky Mount City Council for Ward 3, Mr. Richard Joyner. We'll be right back.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self, and I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
Hello and welcome back to City Beat. I'm your host, Tamika Keenan Norman, and if you're just tuning into the show today, we previously had Chris Beschler and Natasha Hampton Clayton on to talk about their new role as Assistant City Manager. And now we're going to speak with Mr. Richard Joyner, who's the newest member of the Rocky Mount City Council representing Ward 3. So hello and welcome to City Beat.
Thank you, Tammy. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Good to be on City Beat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First, let me say congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Yeah. How does it feel to be part of the City Council now?
I feel like a good servant. And it's exciting. Ward 3 is an exciting ward. And the City Council has been very open and welcome. So, and it's just been a good place to be.
Okay. Now, I'd heard so much about you before you even joined the council and before we officially met, and you've done so much throughout the region. Why council? Why was that the next step for you?
Well, it's amazing that I've been in Rocky Mount since '96 at the hospital. I spent a big portion of that time working with Ward 3 and Lamont Wiggins. And amazing enough that him and I have been extremely good friends, and I've worked with a lot of the City Council members. And most people don't know it, but my original family home is Rocky Mount. My parents are literally from the Tarboro, Rocky Mount, kind of Tillery area. And so I was really spent more time in Rocky Mount than anywhere. And so when the opportunity came up to serve Ward 3 again from a City Council both and position, I really thought that it would be a good opportunity for me to expand the services that I was given to Ward 3 and to Rocky Mount.
So you mentioned previously working with Ward 3.
Yes.
Tell me about what you did in Ward 3 previously.
Oh, that was real exciting. I had an opportunity to do primary health care in Ward 3 from Clark Street. It was a beautiful opportunity with the community, with Duke, and with Nash General at that time. And the goal was to really to look at what would be the impact of having a faith-based primary health care and a community working together. And it was a beautiful, I spent time just doing door-to-door canvassing, talking to people. We did summer youth programs and brought the hospital to the community and carried the community to the hospital.
Okay.
And just got to know, did block-to-block captains. We just had a lot of fun. And so, but accomplished a lot of good stuff for our student school. Participation went up, primary health care being worked from a community standpoint really went up. And so it was an exciting time to reunite at another level with Ward 3.
Okay. And speaking of healthcare, I didn't realize you had been with the hospital since '96, so that's been quite a while.
It's been quite a while. Yeah.
What's your role at the hospital now?
Director of Pastoral Care, and Director of Pastoral Care at Nash is more of a relationship process. We have goals and objectives that build a relationship both with the practitioners in the hospital, the patients in the hospital, and the community. And so I've been there and watched this role. I came in as a chaplain trainee, and now to be from that point to a chaplain, now to director of pastoral care, and now to look at uniting primary health care in the hospital and community is really great. We have 40 volunteer chaplains there, which is made up of pastors and different faith-based. We have Ms. Dee Perkins, who teach clinical pastoral education, which is training for our community. And we have a lot of other discipline with the police department, sheriff departments, and other things as we look at spiritual care on a multi-level.
And speaking of spirituality, we didn't touch on yet that the fact that you are a reverend pastor.
Yes.
Kanita Family Missionary Baptist Church, right?
Yes.
Now, how long have you been there?
14 years I've been there as pastor.
Okay.
And so beautiful opportunity. Again, you know, doing pastoral care, being a pastor from a garden process and from this whole concept of food, faith, and health. And really being a pastor and being a farmer. And really the invitation to the church is not just be the church on Sunday, but how can we be the church in a way that unite all faiths for human development and sustainability of a community.
Okay.
And making food the center, intimate place where we gather.
Okay. Is that what prompted you to start Kanita Family Life Center?
Yes. Well, one of the things is that Kanita is in an area, Edgecombe County, that we're extremely rural, and we were having some real challenges with health. And what we really realized was that, you know, a lot of things we could not purchase. You know, we had food deficits, and we wanted people to have access to fresh, locally healthy grown food. But at the same time, we wanted to know, how could we increase our social skills? You know, how could we say, how do we become producers? How do we become owners? And how do we step into our challenge rather than running away from it?
Gotcha.
And so I am not the person that would love farming. So it was not something that I went hooray about. But it was the privilege to build relationships on a ground that I wasn't a pastor or wasn't someone telling people what to do, but it was on a place where we worked together.
Gotcha. You talked about those social skills, but what else does that Family Life Center offer
Gosh.
for you?
The social skills, opportunities we can grow more food than we can purchase. And we can put food, healthy food on people's tables. Plus, we do, our youth and community is doing CSA boxes, which is food boxes with local, healthy, fresh grown foods.
CSA, what does that stand for?
Well, it's community grown food.
Okay, gotcha.
That they're 6 items in a box, and it's enough for meals. And so that money, the money that they earn, it gives them opportunity to reinvest back into themselves. So, the community participate not from a less than, but from a supply standard.
Gotcha.
And so we feel powerful, but we can step in our vulnerabilities without feeling overwhelmed. And so it's good to see the youth. And this summer, we had 60 youth in the program. They cooked their own food. They did their own summer feeding. They did their own backpack buddies. And one student did over 200 pictures where he carried food home, where him and his family prepared the Sunday meal from the food he grew in the garden. And they sit down and he paid for the whole Sunday meal.
Wow.
And he's 15 years old.
That's excellent to be able to reach them at that young age and teach them about healthy living. And that's going to go with him throughout the rest of his life.
Oh gosh, that he know the chronic disease. He know what grandfathers and other people in his family died from. And he know the food that he has to grow and how to prepare the food that he can avoid the chronic disease by just growing food and eating food that he can save his family life, and he can take the Sunday meal off the budget. That he's doing that.
That's excellent.
Yeah. He took 100 pictures of them. In 8 weeks, he took 100 pictures of his family sitting out eating food that he grew.
I know you're proud of those kids. Do they ever come up to you and tell you about how that has impacted their lives?
Oh yeah, we have a lot of students that have graduated, and one student has a PhD, and she's in Ghana, and she PhD is in physical therapist, and so she created a program that she teach the women. They do physical therapy through gardening.
Okay.
And so she came to church to worship with. She stayed in New York, and so but now she's in Ghana, and she's working with women there, and she's feel pretty empowered that she now combined her PhD and gardening.
That is unique and interesting. It really is.
And for her, she complained the whole. She came to the program as a little girl. Every question was, "Why do I have to do this? I don't want to do this, Reverend Jordan. This is not fair." And I said, "Life is not fair. You got to learn to live in it." And to think now that she is teaching this plus with her PhD.
Excellent. I want to go back to 2015 when you got the top 10 CNN Hero nomination. How did you get that nomination? How did it feel when you heard that? I mean, that was huge.
Well, first I didn't believe it. So, when, we're farming, right? So, who care about what you do on the farm?
Right.
So,
that's what you thought.
So we were farming, and we got bees, and we got all these kids around, and you're trying to get through the summer, and it's hot, 90 degrees. And I get this telephone call, because sometimes it's hard to reach me, and I get this telephone call, and I'm in the field, and they go like, "Are you Reverend Jordan?" I go like, "Well, who did you call?" And they go like, "Well, we're from CNN," and I'm going like, look, it's hot. I got these kids out here working. I don't have any time for no jokes today.
Right.
And so it's like, and they keep talking, and I'm trying to direct, youth, and they're getting in the bees. So it's a lot. Then they say, well, Mr. Joyner, we're really serious. We want to know, you've been nominated for this award, and I said, ma'am, she said, is there any commendation in Kanita? I said, you said, what? I said, unless you stay with Miss Bunch. I said, so I figured then, somebody must be serious. And so we started talking, and it was like, you've been nominated for a CNN award. And I go like, what did that mean? And so it was amazing. It was about a year process that they came a bunch of weekends, and they filmed 40 hours a weekend. When I tell you they filmed 40 hours, they filmed everything from your snoring to everything. And it was good for the community.
Right.
Because CNN, what is the odds of any news people gonna come to your community unless there's a crisis? Not that you can do something good enough for them to come. And seriously, whoever thought someone would come to a community for a garden? So it was amazing. It was great.
Wow.
I think it was good for our youth because they got a chance to see themselves on CNN. They got a chance to see themselves on the Super Bowl, and so it was like, wow, we're doing something good.
Exactly, I know it was.
Yeah.
And you've done so much just sitting here talking to you. I mean, you've done a tremendous amount already. So as a member of council, I know when you go into any organization, you say, I want to do this. I want to have this impact, this end goal. What is that end goal, that impact that you want to make in this community?
Well, this is a great community. Brilliant people who have endured a lot. And I plan to live here for the rest of my life. So not just as a city council person, but just as a basic community person. And to see our community, see that the city council seat and the community is not separated, that we're one. That I'm not representing Richard Joyner on this city council, that when I'm speaking, that it's not just me, it's Ward 3. It's the city of Rocky Mount, that we're speaking in harmony with each other, and that we can live transparent and truthful with each other, because everything will not always be wonderful. There can be some vulnerable spots, and that we'll be able to stand vulnerable but be honest and transparent. And so it's relationship that I hope to bring most of all, is that I look for spending time with the people of the community and working with the community. And so when I show up here, that is not me, it's the community showing up.
You talk about spending time with people in the community. What are you doing now to kind of get acclimated with, a little bit more with Rocky Mount and operations as a council member from this seat?
Oh gosh, I am spending a lot of time with the community leaders, community organizations. I am spending time here at the city learning municipalities, how things work. I'm spending time with the chief of police, which is really great. And just the many different departments that make up this beautiful operation called Rocky Mount City. And just getting to know how I can become a greater servant. Gandhi, which is a love, and John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you really do for your country. Trying to see, in this, I'm 65 years old, so saying, what are the contributions that I can make that will outlive me? Gotcha. And that will help the quality of life, And so how do I make sure that I am giving that level of service? And how is it that is sacrificial service? You know, that when it comes to serving people, that, you know, to be a good servant is how we live our lives and not something we do. So nobody pay you to do that.
Right.
You know, if you get paid, praise the Lord. But it's how we live our lives. It's every day I wake up to say, how can I serve today? And so I think that most of all, that how do I become a better servant every day?
What words of advice do you have for some of those youth that you might be with every day, others who may be watching, about if they want to follow in your footsteps, get involved in public service? What words of advice do you have for them?
You know, you know, I tell our youth all the time, don't wait till you get to university to be an alumnus. That everybody in your class, whether you're in pre-kindergarten or elementary school, get to know everybody in your class and tell your class, all of us going to graduate on time. And tell your class, it's not just good to be an A student in this class. Until everybody in this class is an A student, then you're a good A student. So it's not what your achievements do for you. It's what your achievements do for everybody else.
Gotcha.
And if you do that, God will open up doors for you, and you just be able to walk in them and be a servant. It's a privilege and definitely an honor to be here and to serve. And I am very thankful and very humbled. And I want to just say, my father and military taught me a couple of things that I remember. One of them is my father and my mom taught me, with 13 children, don't be insubordinate to your father. So, and your mom. So what they're the leaders, you are to follow guidelines. And as a process of city council, I'm making policy and procedures to really, I look forward to supporting the leadership of our city manager in our city. And so, you know, speed of core and being a team player is what I look forward to. And the other one is that I-95-64 corridor, what's good for Rocky Mount is good for the eastern part of North Carolina.
That's true. Well, thank you again for joining us on City Beat today. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed talking with you. Yeah.
Same here. Thank you so much. I look forward to much more work together.
All right, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for tuning in to another edition of City Beat as well. I'm your host, Tamika Keenan Norman, and we'll see you next time.